Good afternoon, Enmore Park members. I hope you're doing really well today, and I hope you enjoyed yesterday's lockdown lesson where we're starting to look a little bit more in depth on what we call the ball flight laws. So those are the laws that whatever golf shot you're hitting, the club will be in certain positions at impact to create that shot. And as I said, they're absolute, so they will not change. Yesterday we looked at the club face position at impact, which was the biggest determiner of where the ball is initially going to start, and also the path. So that's the whole club head moving, which way is it coming into as it approaches the ball. So that in effect will create any curvature if there's a difference between where the face is pointing and where the path is coming into the ball from. So in terms of direction, I hope those things helped for you. And if you have any other questions on them, obviously then email me and we can go through it a bit further. What we're going to look at today is all about speed and distance, basically. And there's a couple of factors of those ball flight laws that effectively we're looking at. One is obviously the speed, so that's how fast is this club head moving as it approaches the ball and it hits the ball, how fast is it travelling. And then the second one is what we call ball speed, and that is down to one of the other ball flight laws, which was the centeredness of strike. So where am I hitting this on the club face? Ideally, we want to hit it in the middle of the club face, and that club face should hopefully be square as you're hitting it. So therefore, you're getting all of that club head speed into the back of the ball. Now, with a driver, we can actually measure your efficiency of that. So if you looked on launch monitors, they call it smash factor. It should be, if you're hitting it perfectly out the middle of a square club face, 1.5 times your club head speed. So for simple math's sake, if I'm swinging this club head at 100 mile an hour as it hits the ball, and I hit it out of the middle of the club face and it's square, that ball speed should be 150 mile an hour. So that means I've got absolutely everything out of it. I've hit it right out the middle of the club face and right out of a square club face. So it's not open and it's not closed. Okay. Now, whenever I get someone who's coming to me and they want to try and hit it further, I'll be looking at either the ball speed or the club head speed. Now, the biggest one really in terms of hitting it further was we've got to make sure the club head is moving faster. We can then look at ball speed afterwards, so that's how well you're hitting out the middle of the club face. So that's actually something I've been working on over the last couple of months before we went into lockdown, because annoyingly, out of the three of us in the shop, I hit at the least distance. Alex swings it the fastest, so he's averaging probably 120 to 125 mile an hour, which is better than tour average. Harry swings it about tour average, and I'm slightly less than that. So my main aim really for the last 2 months is just to swing it as fast as I possibly can, and I'll go through a couple of the things that I've worked on to try and generate more club head speed. And I've actually sacrificed, I didn't care where I hit it on the club face or where the ball went. I just purely wanted to swing this thing as fast as I could, because if your body can get used to moving the club head quickly, over time you will start to get it back in the middle of the club face. You will start to be able to hit it more out of the center, but you need to be able to move the club head quickly first. So what have I tried to work on? Now everybody's obviously different in terms of their physical capabilities and their makeup. I'm actually, and I've always have been, quite tight in my hip area, so that actually restricts me on how much I can move within the golf swing. So there's a couple of things I change in my setup to allow me to do that. One of the things you may have seen in terms of your setup is people will talk about, if you flare this left foot out, it'll actually help you turn through the ball. And yes, that does for me. So in terms of my lead hip, because I'm obviously a right-handed golfer, so my left hip is my lead hip. As I turn through the ball, if my left foot is flared out somewhat, it allows me to rotate around this lead hip better. And you can see my left foot is actually planted on the floor. Now, what that actually does on my backswing is it restricts my ability to make a decent turn, because I'm quite tight in here, and if this foot's flared out, I can't make a full turn. That's about as far as I can get. Okay. that's as far as I can get. So what I now have been working on, this is something I only really realised in the last couple of months, is if I square this foot up, that allows me to make a bigger turn. So a nice wide turn. You can see there I've actually rotated my shoulders quite a long way, okay? I've also coupled that with letting the left heel just raise a little bit. Now that's something that you want to actively do. It should happen because you're trying to make a turn. So as I've made a turn and I'm getting to about here, I'm letting the left heel just raise a little bit to allow me to make a bigger turn. So the bigger the turn you can make, in theory, the more speed you should be able to start to generate. What I will say with that is I'm actually trying to keep the gap in my knees fairly constant. I know that is closing a little bit, but you can see my right side is staying very stable as I make a turn. I'm not letting it do this. I'm definitely not swaying, you know, left and right and up and down. So I'm trying to turn around my spine angle. So this is my setup here. You can see the change in the flex of the knee. So this one's effectively straightening a little bit. Left knee's popping out. You can see my left heel's raising off the ground. So it's allowing me to make a nice full turn to get behind the ball. Obviously the consequence of that is on the way through. As I start to swing through, I have to let this foot roll. And if you look at a lot of the tour players, look at their left foot, it will definitely not be in the same position it started. It will all, as it certainly as they're hitting drive, it will all kind of spin a little bit to allow them to turn through. So that's one thing I've been working on. Square the left foot up, bigger turn, left heel raise. Okay, look how much more turn I can get there, as opposed to, that's about as far as I can get. Now the other one, and if you looked at the first lesson in terms of where we grip the club in my fingers, I've got full range of motion here. So I want you to make a setup, hover the club head in the air, okay? And I just want you to make a swing where your left arm is straight and parallel to the ground, and you've hinged your wrist, so we've got a 90-degree angle here, okay? Now on the way down, we've got to release that angle, and then we match it up here. So we're calling this the thumbs up drill. So thumbs up to the sky, to thumbs up to the sky. And we want to hear a swoosh at the bottom. Okay, you ready? So swoosh. Now if I couple that with the turn I've been working on, so a slight pivot, we can start to make much more speed through the ball. Make my bigger turn and through. So for about 2 months, I was basically trying to swing it as fast as I can. Sacrificed everything else where I hit it out the club face. So again, for easiness sake, let's just say I built my swing speed up to 100 miles an hour. I was hitting out the toe and out the heel, and therefore the ball speed wasn't 150, it was probably 135 or something like that, which is why you often hear a lot of people say, oh, when I swing it easier, I hit it further, and that's because they're probably hitting it right in the middle of the club face. But we need to generate club head speed. If you want to hit it further, you've got to swing this thing faster. So I would sacrifice initially and just do it in practice, and you don't necessarily need to hit balls, but sacrifice where you hit it out the club face to work on swinging it faster. So those two things will generate more speed. Nice bigger turn, let everything turn behind the ball, full hinge of the wrists, and get a swoosh at the bottom. Now probably as we're in lockdown, I would say your daily regime should be initially just 10 swings, that's 5, 10 swings, where I want you to just swing it as fast as you possibly can. Even if you lose a little bit of balance, try and maintain your posture as you turn, but swing it as fast as you possibly can. And then over time, build that up. So after maybe a week of doing 10 a day, can you do 15 a day, up to maybe 20, 25 swings a day, where you're just purely going as fast as you physically can. And you'll be surprised at how your body starts to adapt. It's much like when you start training for a marathon or a half marathon, or you're lifting weights in the gym, and over time you progress up through the weights and up through the distances in the running. It's exactly the same. Your body's getting used to moving faster. And then you'll find when you actually start to focus more on striking the ball cleanly, so working on that ball speed, your club head speed will be fairly maintained, and you'll start to swing it much better, and you'll gain much more distance. For me, when I started 8 weeks ago before the lockdown, I was probably averaging about 98 mile an hour. And then just before the lockdown, I got it up to about 105, so again 7 mile an hour, which is quite a lot. And that's probably almost 20 yards, between 15 and 20 yards, depending on how well I hit it. That's a big difference, it's a big jump. And I think for you guys, you can definitely gain probably much more than that. So let me know how it goes. And as I said, that's the other part of the 5 ball flight laws. Yesterday we looked at club face, position and path, which was the directions, and today we've looked at where we strike it on the club face and how fast are we moving it for our distance. If you have any questions, then obviously email me, pro@enmore park.co.uk, and we'll see you tomorrow.